one of the most important parts of relative and kinship is that our elders modeled appropriate behavior. It's not so much that they said, now this is, as they were doing it, now this is how you do. We saw what they were doing. We saw how they interacted with one another, how they were respectful, how my grandmother, I never saw her say a harsh word to anyone. I never heard her cuss, even though maybe she was cussing. I don't think there's any cuss words in Lakota. But anyway, she was a very, very respectable and respectful woman. And so I learned responsible behavior from her, that you never hit children. I never did spank my kids. I didn't hit them. I didn't slap them. Sometimes I talked loudly to them, but I would explain things to them. And that's what I saw her do. And that's what I saw my mother do. My mother didn't spank us either. That's just how we were taught. In fact, my grandma said one time to another lady, I had big ears, I was listening, and this other woman must have been hitting her kids or doing something, because she said to her, when you hit your child, she was telling this woman, when you hit your child, it's like spitting them in the face. And I always kept that visual image in my mind. Spitting at a kid, to spit at somebody in the face, that's horrible, and she likened that to even, laying a hand on them. We're all human beings are sacred, and that's kind of how I was taught, that you don't hit them. If you're going to touch another human being, you're touching them because you're doctoring them, or you want to pray with them, or you want to love it. You're hugging them because you want to acknowledge that love you have for them, but you don't hit them for any reason. It took me a while to be able to do the pound, because that pound or the high five and all that. But that's a different culture, because we gave individuals their sacred space. And even today, when I'm around some elders, I shake their hands, I don't shake it real hard, but I shake their hands and I try to acknowledge them as a human being, that deserves to have that recognition. But I won't hug them or anything like that unless they initiate a hug, because they are the elders. Well, you learn these things through observing, through watching, appropriate behavior. And that's what your relatives taught you. When we were young, we were also taught not to. Well, I was taught to be home by dark. Grandmother, the grandma said, you can't be out there because the spirits are out there and they might harm you. You have to be in the house or close to the house when it's dark. And so when it was starting to get dark, all of us knew that we had to make our way back to the house. And then before we would come in the house, she said, now turn around and call your spirits. And so when I was a little kid, I thought that was just weird. I had to call my name, Jace, 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 Jace. Well, later on when I got my Lakota name, and the elders were talking to us about that. Now, when you leave a ceremony, remember to call your name. And it hit me again. Oh yeah, my grandma used to say that. In other words, you are calling your spirit back to your body. You're calling to make you whole again, because we're made up of different entities, and sometimes part of our spirit leaves us and heads out and goes someplace else. And so when you come back, and they're curious, so they go when you come back, you call your spirit so that you can be whole again before you go to sleep at night. And so I find myself doing that in the evenings now. And certainly when we come back from ceremony like Sundance or Bear Butte, when we've been praying at Bear Butte or having a sweat lodge ceremony, whatever it is, go to Devil's Tower, Matotipila, wherever we go, when we leave that place, we call our spirit 4 times. We do lots of things in 4s and 7s. So we call our spirit 4 times. But now I call my Lakota name. You know, I say that 4 times. So that is something that I learned when I was real little, to call my spirit. But it carries over, and I know some adults don't know that, but that's an idea of, you know, we can teach those things to our young people now, that this is how we relate to our spirit within our body, ourself, so that we can remain whole. So just a little story, but that, you know, when I think of relatives and kinship, and I think of proper behavior, I think of role modeling. I also think of, you know, the positive things that they tried to emulate and share with us.